How the devil are you?
All right, thank you very much. I am just we're recording this the 1st of December, which is the day that we've published our episode with Martin of Vistopia, the band,
Yes.
and got some lovely feedback already, which is a bit crazy. And seeing as it's only been released for half a day, but that's still lovely.
Absolutely. And he
So
was
that's good.
lovely. He was
And
absolutely lovely.
he was absolutely lovely. Yes. Yeah. We had a great chat, a lovely, lovely chat. And the top feedback was obviously about the hilarious Egyptian fish joke, which I was particularly pleased with. But generally, all very positive about what a great chat. So that's good. So we'll do that. Now, one of the things that Martin did mention during his episode was about we talked about getting protein, and obviously the big joke is that vegans don't get enough protein. And he said that as far as he was aware, that it's more dangerous to eat too much protein.
Apparently so.
So I had a little look at that, and what I've found is that eating too much protein can cause things such as weight gain,
Yep.
because too much protein if you consume too much protein, it can be stored as fat.
Yep. Instead of
So
going into
that,
the muscles.
yeah, so that isn't a good thing. Bad breath and constipation, diarrhea, dehydration, and if you have pre-existing kidney disease, then it can exacerbate that as well, and it can give a increased cancer risk and heart disease. So, uh, and as George said in his episode, there's no recorded cases of anybody dying of lack of protein. So
No, no.
it's actually far more dangerous to overeat protein than to
However,
not get enough.
not that I wish to put a counter argument in, but
Yeah.
if we have proved that there is more protein in plants, then we might be having too much protein. And also,
True.
you said the symptoms there were constipation and diarrhea.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that must be
Depending on who
a
you are, depending on whose side of the fence you're on.
yes. I don't think it's the same for everybody. I think that would be a strange sensation, being constipated and having diarrhea.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because the thing with it is that the amount of daily protein that you need depends massively on who you are as a person, not
the
just
individual.
everybody needs this amount of protein. So there we
No,
go. It's all about how active you are,
it's your
your
metabolism,
general
isn't it?
health, your metabolism, your age, your gender, and all that sort of stuff. So you can't just say you need this much protein and that's it. And
Yeah.
you can only get it from meat. So that's a good thing. There we go. So we've got a great guest today who is another podcast host, a vegan
Yes.
podcast host,
Yep.
called Michele from the Veg Your Best podcast, and it's one that I've been listening to a lot. She's a vegan life coach, which is
Cool.
I found really interesting. Her podcasts normally sort of around about half an hour.
Okay.
Some there are guests, and some there are just some sort of motivational stuff, and
Cool.
really really interesting. So
Excellent.
check Michele out, but also keep listening to us, but not at
Obviously,
the same time.
no,
No.
no,
There's room for all of us.
there is.
If you wanted to get involved, if you want to be a guest, if you want to just tell us something,
How great we are.
how great we are, how not great we are, we'll
Yeah.
happily take any type of feedback. Um, you can
Well,
find us.
I don't know about
Well,
that.
no,
No, I
no.
might, I might
Well, I
get a
mean,
bit. I might get a bit.
well, I just won't tell you about it. We'll just delete it. But if you want to send us anything, then you can find us on social media: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. TikTok, Twitter, or you could send us an email.
You could send us an email, get in touch with us, and request to come on as a guest. That would be amazing and help us out. Just send us an email at howiveganpodcast@gmail.com. Not that we have to go suddenly professional just because I've pressed record.
That's fine. No, that's fine.
No, I'm not sure if you've listened to any or many of our episodes, Michele, but professionalism is not one of our strong points.
You know, I actually like something that feels real. I almost never edit my podcasts. I mean, I edit the ends, but in between, unless somebody's really having a coughing fit or something like that, I just think it sounds just better. I don't know.
It's normally me slurping drinks. That's what Matthew has to edit.
He keeps me on my toes. I haven't got a Charlie to do all the editing for me, so so I have to do it.
My Charlie, thanks. He'll be so pleased that you remember him. Yeah, yeah. He puts in my sound effect for stoicism. I don't know if you ever hear that, but when I quote a Stoic philosopher, because Stoicism meant a lot to me, he puts a little like harp sound effect, and that's the hardest it gets for him. Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, Marcus Aurelius probably.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So while we're talking about your podcast, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do an intro and then we'll talk about your podcast. So, episode 24. Here we go. This is another guest from overseas. We have Michele, who is the host of Veg Your Best podcast, which is one that we've been listening to recently. Just celebrated your second anniversary of podcasting. 100 and what are we up to now?
117.
I've lost track. 117. Good grief.
Consecutive weekly.
I was going to say, you do one every single week, don't you? That's incredible. You're also a vegan life coach, which we're definitely going to be asking you about. So let's start off with Veg Your Best first then. So how did that come about? What was the sort of story behind it?
So when I was moving towards veganism, I was, thinking about it and talking myself out of it, and then talking myself back into it and talking myself back out of it. I listened to a lot of podcasts, really a lot. And that was, I think I often say that podcasts were the friend. I knew no one who was actually vegan. My daughter went through a phase of veganism, and that is what had gotten me to open my eyes around it, open my mind around how to facilitate it for her, how to be supportive for her, and how to be, she was still in high school, and I wanted to make sure that she was eating correctly and, all the mom things. And so in a perfect world, I thought, oh, I would be too, but impossible, right? That's what I thought. That was my headspace. So as I started to look into it, I heard about these different, and they were almost all middle-aged male endurance athletes. Are you an endurance athlete too?
We were the first part.
We were halfway there.
There you go. I'm sure you're more athletic than I am. So I am not particularly athletic. I try to move, but I'm not particularly athletic. But I was thinking in my head, if they can do it, if they can do back-to-back marathons, if they can do cycling adventures, if they can do like Rich Roll, Finding Ultra was his book. If they can do that, I'm pretty sure I won't die of some sort of protein or mineral deficiency. And my daughter, who was much more athletic at that time, she was in college sports, she'll probably be okay too. So that was so anyway, long story short, when I found myself, confidently, comfortably living a vegan lifestyle, I thought maybe my voice would be helpful for some people. That I became vegan, committed to being vegan in my 50s, about 7 or 8 years ago. I'm 63 now. I'm a little bit different than some. I'm not particularly, I don't have dreadlocks. I'm not a street activist, but I'm an activist in the world that I'm in. And so I felt like I had a voice that I could give to other people who might just be like me and think it's impossible. How's a woman in midlife with a family who's already raised her children eating animal products on a basically day-to-day? What am I supposed to do? How can I do it? So that's why.
That's brilliant. That's a real sort of niche kind of topic as well, because I mean, I've started, since we've been doing this, I've started listening to quite a few different vegan podcasts, and I haven't found one that covers that sort of area. And that's a really interesting take on it.
And that's kind of who my advocacy is among women who they're used to thinking of how they eat, and clearly I'm very sensitive that veganism is not a diet, but it is one of the major ways that we either practice a vegan lifestyle or don't, is through those choices of food and how we consume on a day-to-day basis. And so a lot of women are used to having all these rules about food and how they function every day. And it's sometimes it's just overwhelming. And we have a lot of diet trauma that a lot of women, that hasn't been particularly my life, but a lot of the women I deal with have a lot of diet trauma. They've been trying to like change themselves for years through food. And sometimes they're just sick of thinking about it this way. And they think, oh, I just couldn't. It's just always been hard for me. How I eat's always been a struggle. So those are the people I try to work with, try to help, and try to be a voice for.
Yeah, I think like my wife's told me that when anyone's on any sort of diet, you become obsessed with food, and that just makes it even worse, doesn't it?
Yeah. And that the title of a podcast is Veg Your Best, because I call it a vegan practice, because like a yoga practice, like a religious practice, like many spiritual practice, it's something we keep coming to the best way we can every day. And so that and to me, to have a vegan practice requires practice. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and you can't beat yourself up. Well, you can. I know you can, but I don't think it's helpful to beat yourself up for what you don't know how to do yet. And it has put me a little bit at odds with some people in the vegan community, because they think I'm maybe being morally relativistic about it. That's saying, well, a little bit of murder, a little bit of animal atrocity is okay. And I understand that point of view. I really do. I am compassionate with a point of view. It's just not who I'm trying to help. So I'm trying to help people who currently just don't see how they could possibly do it.
Yes. Excellent.
Good.
And so I mentioned as well that you're a vegan life coach. So which came first, the vegan or the life coach?
Vegan first. Vegan first. Yeah. Vegan in my mid-50s. And then I just kind of coincidentally learned a lot more about, like, I came through starting an ad agency with my husband right out of college. So that we've had our own business for years and years. And so I was exposed to some life coaching through some people that I knew. And I just was thrilled by the kind of practice of examining our thoughts and seeing how our thoughts keep showing up in the results we're creating in our lives. And I thought it was a very elegant way of practicing what we were talking about before, Stoicism. Stoicism as a philosophy has always resonated really a lot with me, that we have circumstances completely beyond our control. And how do we live in the world with integrity and with holding ourselves to a high standard without being able to really control anybody else but ourselves. So life coaching helped me figure out a way to kind of practice that, keep bringing myself back to myself, to keep bringing my work back to my lane. And I know as a vegan, we can really get distracted by all sorts of things we can't do anything about today.
Absolutely. That is such a massive thing, and it's been such a recurring theme through our interviews with our various guests about you know, the state of the world, the way animals are treated. But like you say, you bring it back to yourself, and you're doing as much as you can do.
Yeah.
And you can't control anybody else.
You can't control anybody else. The way I
No.
look at it, really, like
No.
not at all. And that is why so my activism is always, you know, you probably know Melanie Joy, who who developed the term carnism and wrote the book Why We Love Dogs, Eat Pigs, and Wear Cows. I think that's the order that the title's in. And she talks about how we've just been brainwashed. Sounds a little bit, but we've been brainwashed by our culture that eating animal products is natural, normal, and necessary. So I like to just keep showing up as it isn't. Being vegan can be very normal, very natural, and very necessary for all kinds of reasons. So that's the activism I try to show up for, that you're not doing without anything. You really aren't doing without anything.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
once you kind of commit to that practice of looking at it, I found that it made me so humble and so open to the fact, what do I know? What I thought I knew for years and years and years, even as a mother feeding my children, what I thought I knew, I think I know better now. I think I know more now. And that makes me question everything, not in a bad way, but in an open way. I'm trying to be always open to learning from everybody.
Yeah, it makes you think, doesn't it? If we've been tricked in that subject for so long, then what else have we been tricked in?
Yeah. And I'm a student of history. I was trained as an art historian with heavy on the history part. I love medieval art and early European art and history. And you know, my dad, my husband's family and my dad, they were all in the UK, or both our fathers were, because they were Poles, and they were both
Oh wow.
during the Second World War. My dad was a homeless kid, and
Right.
then ended up growing up in the UK with his dad was in the Polish Air Force and flew out of the
Wow.
UK during the war. And so London is kind of a second home for my family, traditional part of my family. And so we there's so much I grew up with so many ideas of what's wrong and unjust and terrifying, and it's just whatever we focus on, we become very, very very, very aware of that. But there's so much else. So what don't we see?
Mm.
Well, we could go down the route of a conspiracy theory podcast here, but we'll try and stay away from that. But talking of Europe, Michele, I was very jealously following your Instagram and saw you were recently in Italy
Yeah, I love
for a
Italy.
trip.
Yeah.
How was that for vegan food?
I find Italy usually really, really easy, usually really, really good, because you can always at least ask for grilled vegetables,
Oh yeah, that's
some
true.
pasta
Some
with
pasta.
funghi.
Yeah.
So usually, and dried pasta is almost always no egg, not always, but almost always. And I think every single year I go back to Europe, it's simpler and simpler and simpler to find. People are just so much more aware. And it was one of the things I found daunting early on. Was I thought, you know, how do I go to a place where they have pride in their artisanal creations of cheese, of meats, of leathers, of things like, how do I of fish? How do I go there and say, no, I don't think so. That's not what I do. It felt really uncomfortable for me to stand in that kind of judgment of people who had practiced this kind of work with tremendous pride for generations or even longer. Yeah.
100%, yeah.
But you practice saying no, and you practice saying, I just don't.
Yeah.
I know
Just
you've
in
been doing
Italian
this.
instead of in English.
Say again?
Just in Italian instead of in English. It's the
Yes,
same,
exactly.
same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I found it, and I was in the UK with my husband early. We actually got engaged in London years and years and
Oh,
years
wow.
and years ago. But the UK is super easy. I'm sure there are plenty of people in the UK who think it isn't easy at all, but for an American, it's really, really easy. And I've never had so many marvelous full English breakfasts, only veganized, as we had on our last trip. Just remarkable. Really, really good.
Yes. So what's the scene like in your part of the US?
So I'm in New England, which is the northeast corner. Yeah. New England. Yeah.
Big Pat's fan here.
Yeah. And it's mostly easy. Every once in a while it's, I find the places that I go to all the time, some places that's not their focus, but they've seen me show up and ask for it for so long that it kind of, most people work with it. I'm not someone who refuses to eat in a place that has anything that's not vegan in it. I know some people do. Some people sign the Liberation Pledge and refuse to. Again, I totally admire that. It's just not, it's not my mission. And I feel like I'm there to show up for the people as kind of a bridge. If I had been born vegan, maybe raised vegan, maybe I would feel that way.
Yes.
I don't actually know.
When you go into a traditional restaurant and you have vegan food, you're kind of showing the pre-vegans what they're missing. Yeah. And I've stolen pre-vegans from Molly from Elwood's Dog Meat, because I heard a podcast where she called carnists pre-vegans, and I thought that was a great term, because someone's going to look at that and think, "Oh, that looks all right." And Wes, you've said it before. How many times do you go out and have a vegan meal, and your fellow people around the table look at it and go, "Oh, that looks brilliant."
Yeah.
And you think,
yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Sometimes they say, what did you order? What was that on the menu? And I'm like, no, they just make that for me because I've told them so many times I want this, and this on the plate, and not.
Fantastic.
So, but that's the other thing. Also, from an economic and from a business point of view, I want business owners to know we're coming, we're not coming. That we called and you said, no, there's really nothing on the menu. And we're like, really? You couldn't help me make that? And they go, no. And you go, okay. So the whole family's not coming, not just me.
That's it. I'll take my whole dinner party somewhere else. That's it. And you won't get our money. That's it. That's what's going to make them change, isn't it? It's the money at the end of the day.
Yeah, because it's all about, I think it's all about seeing that it's possible and that it really exists and that it can be done. And I can't judge anybody in business for thinking, how big a market is that? How many people is that really? But when every vegan or close to vegan or vegetarian has 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 friends and family members, yeah, it's a bigger market than they think.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this time last week was Thanksgiving, or as we discovered on our last podcast episode, Thanksgiving.
I heard that one
we
too,
saw we saw that a few times. So how did that go for you?
Well, it was an unusual year for me because we have a daughter who's expecting her first child any second, literally.
Oh, wow.
I could get a text. I'm not really sure.
Will that be your first grandchild?
No, the fourth. Okay. The fourth grandson.
Wow.
Yeah, and so because we didn't want her to travel at all, we went to her sister, my eldest child's house, who has a couple kids, and so we went there. And my daughter, who's not vegan, and no one in my family is vegan. They're very veg forward, I guess is the term, but she created a beautiful, beautiful plant-based Thanksgiving for us. We had mushroom Wellington and that she made, and I posted it all on Instagram, which is where because I don't talk a lot about food in my podcast and in my coaching, but I do because I think it's not about the food personally. And I think there's a lot of people who actually create beautiful recipes and have great books and do meal plans. And I refer people to those sorts of people. The work I do is about getting comfortable asking for what you want when you think someone's going to judge you, or doing the things that support you in terms of your choices. But anyway, I do post it on Instagram. That's where I dump all my pictures of food.
Compassion and Cucumbers, the podcast, you did a collaboration recently, didn't you?
Yes.
But they're really good at that. They post recipes and make stuff out of a different cookbook each quite regularly, don't they? That's something that I enjoy.
Yeah, they're marvelous. And Christine's a wonderful graphic artist, and she's created these cards to give to businesses. If she goes and sees on the menu there's something, a vegan option, she'll leave and say, you know, I came here because of your vegan option. And she leaves that these kind of nice, bright, thankful cards saying, just to kind of remind the business owner and the staff, yeah, that we were here and we're paying attention to what we're offering.
I
like that idea.
Yeah,
yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Okay, good. All right, should we crack on with the normal questions?
Okay, I keep changing my mind about the answers.
Do you know, we did our first one in February, I think. Well, actually, we did the first one in January, but for some reason it recorded with no sound, so then we had to do it again. So not only did we have to try and remember the answers the second time around, but I think if I did it again, a lot of my answers would be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a practice. It's a practice. We're living in the world. It's not like a one and done ever, right? We're always living in the world, and it's not a vegan world, and we're always trying to, like, you know, incorporate and learn and find out, as I said before, like, we don't know what we don't know. So sometimes we just have to, like, be humble and eat crow or just evolve.
Yeah, that's it. There's a lot of adapting, isn't there? A lot of adapting. But anyway, so tell us then, what's your vegan story?
So my vegan story is that I didn't commit until I was in my 50s. And once I actually did commit, what I did find being vegan was that if you can be vegan in this world, you can do things you didn't have any idea you could do. And it really opened up so much possibility for me as a woman, as a mother, as a community citizen. I was like, oh, what can't I do? All I had to do was rethink what I thought were the rules. I had to just rethink what I thought was possible. I had to rethink that yes, sometimes people are annoyed or dismissive or mocking, but they always were. They just wasn't on that. They just not on that topic. And it's like, boy, if you can handle that, there's nothing you can't do if you can be uncomfortable with how other people think about you.
Yeah,
so that's the biggest part of my vegan story for me.
That's it. It is a big leap. You have to just sort of say, yeah, I don't really care what anybody else thinks about me. Yeah.
In the nicest possible way. I mean, it's not that it's not that I don't care what you think, because I would love you to think differently, but I can't go there. I can't get involved with it.
Yeah, that's it. You can't let other people's opinions affect what you do, can you? What your actions are. No, that's true. So you mentioned earlier that you sort of started looking into it because your daughter went through a sort of a vegan phase.
Yes.
So from your point of view, then, was it the looking into it that sort of pushed you more towards it?
Yeah, it gave
me. Was there
any
one particular incident which made you think, that's it, I'm done?
Okay, the thing that made me so during my daughter, me trying to, like, support my daughter's choices and then model for her when she would say, oh, there was nothing on the menu that was vegan, and I'd say, okay, well, I would start modeling. Okay, and I started eating that way a lot, just to kind of show the restaurants, no, my daughter needs a decent meal. So I would order, like, and I always say it's greens, beans, and then you fill in the plate. That's like the simplest way to do things. So I would just say, do you have rice? Do you have quinoa? Do you have whatever? Do you have or pasta or something? So you got your grain, then you get whatever vegetables there, salad, whatever. So you could create a nice, big, filling, attractive, inviting meal. So I got a lot of practice modeling that from my daughter. And then I was for quite a while what I call an excuse-itarian. I was basically vegan unless there was an excuse. And the excuse would be like somebody didn't have anything for me, or I was invited to someone's house, or they made me something, or so the excuse was usually someone else was going to be put out, or I was going to feel self-conscious about saying no or not eating in front of them. Sometimes that was the thing, being with a family member, and can they enjoy their meal if I sit there and I'm eating, romaine lettuce and French fries. It's kind of, I was more worried about that even I think than they were. But so the thing that changed everything for me was I was hiding behind these ideas of what would my family think? Would that make life more complicated for all of us? And then my dad died very suddenly of a heart event. And then my husband was being told he needed statins to bring down his cholesterol. And that gave me the psychological like safety net to say, oh, now I'd like you, my husband, I'd like you to consider 6 weeks of being like vegan till 6 or whatever, vegan till dinner. And in support, I will go completely vegan. Now, it's such an arbitrary decision, right? It really wasn't, but it kind of gave me a sense that I was doing this for my family, for the people I loved. And I needed that sort of permission and that's one of the things I talk about with my clients is we hide behind the people we love so often in terms of these choices. And so once I made that decision, it was pretty easy from then on. It was really not that big a struggle. But I used that event in my family to basically just no going back.
Wow. Okay. So that were how long ago was that then?
2015.
Okay. Ooh, 7 years then. 7 and a bit. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Okay.
So what was the biggest struggle when you made that decision?
The biggest struggle was a little bit trying not to feel like my whole family was being inconvenienced by it. That was my kind of psychological biggest struggle. In terms of me personally practicing as a vegan, the biggest struggle was footwear.
Yes. Yes.
I still do wear some of my leather boots for hiking type things because they're old but they are so comfortable, and they the man-made materials, some of them are really awful. I'm looking forward to some of these high-tech things, or the mushroom leathers and the cactus leather. I'm looking forward to those really getting developed and plastic doesn't really make me feel better about how we're treating the world.
No.
So
that's a real quandary, that is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you go with the plastic or the leather? Yeah.
Yeah. So for footwear, that is the thing that has been the hardest. And for me, I had to just decide, I'm keeping a certain group of my shoes, and that's just how it is right now. They're still leather. And especially when we go to Europe, we walk miles and miles and miles on cobblestone streets. And I think some of my leather hiking boots and walking boots are so much better even than like running shoes for that. So anyway, that was a bit of a struggle for me personally.
Yes, absolutely get that. It's but if you already had them, then you're just using them until they're no longer
they're
usable,
no more, and they might make it to my end. I don't know.
I'm the same with my work boots. I had my work boots before I changed. I'm like, well, they're like this, so I'll crack on with them.
Yeah.
And then I just have to speak to my boss and say, can you get me some vegan boots and pay some more money?
Yeah, I've tried some of them. Like Steve Madden has some, and the other thing is they're okay, but I have to not wear them 2 days in a row because I find that they don't breathe. I don't know. Maybe somebody has some great tips out there, and we'll connect with us about that. But I do have some vegan shoes, and they're okay, but
okay, that's good.
Not the best.
No problem. Okay, that's good. All right. So when you went vegan, then what did your friends and family think about it?
I think they wondered whether it would last. And that is something I know a lot of people don't commit because they think, how can I keep it up? Will I keep it up? And then everybody's going to have something to say about it.
Absolutely. That's exactly right.
And So I know that that's like a very human thing for anything. They're like, oh, how many things have you had enthusiasms for? You took that class and you took that exercise thing and you changed this, or anyway. So in general, supportive, sometimes a little bit, well, we'll see.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do they feel now then after 7 years?
I think
Have they finally realized that it's here to stay?
I think they know it's here to stay. And I think some of them I have two daughters who are married and my son is married. And I think sometimes my sons-in-law are like, just like, don't make me 100% commit. They're very, very good about most of the way, but I think they don't want to be, and I don't because I would like my in-laws to love me.
Yes, yeah. And that's a really hard thing. I think that's amazing that you managed a whole plant-based Thanksgiving,
Thanks.
because we've got Christmas coming up.
Yeah.
And we're having a family do, aren't we? Where's
We are.
I think we'll be almost majority vegan.
Nice.
I
Almost,
think.
yeah.
Will there
Yeah.
be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us, and
Something like that, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 6 carnists and 5 vegans. So we're not far off.
That's congratulations on having that kind of. Did you convert them or did they convert you?
I think
Well,
it was my wife that
It's a
started.
bit of a domino effect, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
my wife was vegan when I met her 20 years ago.
Okay.
I changed 5.5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. Sorry,
4.5.
Matthew was just after me. His wife just after him, or probably together, maybe.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then my lad, about 18 months later, and Michelle's mum, probably a few months ago.
That's marvelous. That's really
Yeah.
marvelous.
But there's no way that we would be having a fully vegan or fully plant-based Christmas dinner.
No.
So we'll share the table with
Yep.
them eating their turkey and stuff, and we'll be eating our vegan stuff. But yeah, I could imagine the looks on faces if we said we're having a vegan only dinner. That would
Well,
be it'd be worth it actually, just for the reaction.
Just to have it on tape.
Yeah.
I decided during the process of all of this for me, I just decided that there were enough problems in life not to make what other people do be a problem for me. And
That's a great
and
outlook.
I know not everybody feels that way, and I understand the way they look at it, but the way I look at it, I just don't want to be upset with anybody else about the way they eat. I feel like in the long run, like you said, pre-vegans, is that what the other person was saying? That's how I feel people are, that it will hit them at some point, and it will hit them faster and sooner if they see me just doing my thing and staying out of their lane. So I don't know. I could be wrong about that, and I know not everybody agrees about it.
I was talking to some people last night, and I was like, but they were asking me about my veganism, and I was like, I knew it was going to it didn't get heated, it didn't get into a big debate, but they were asking me a lot of questions. And I just thought, I don't want to be coming across preachy. I've never wanted to come across as preachy. And I said to them, I'm hoping I'm not coming across like that. If you want the information, I'll happily give it to you. But I'm not going to say you've got to change. You've got to make that decision on your own. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, for sure.
Yeah.
Very often if we have dinner with a group of people, people will ask questions about it. And typically, I think they're asking questions just out of awkwardness. And I always say, let's not talk about it now. If you would like to know anything about it tomorrow, you email me or call me. But no one has ever done that.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, why should I figure out way how I explain it, how graphic I am, how much I talk about things? Why should I ruin my dinner trying to figure out what they actually want to hear when honestly they're probably not serious anyway to learn about it? And I think it still is sprinkling veganism when they see someone who's navigating it and making it happen and seems happy and healthy and functional.
Yes.
And so I feel like that's enough. That's enough advocacy for one evening.
That's it. And like you say, you're giving them the option as well for further inquiries, aren't you? Like saying, give me a call and I'll gladly discuss it with you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Has anything changed for you since you've gone vegan, mentally, physically, anything like that at all?
Well, I have to say I was fine before I went vegan, and well, except for I had osteoporosis, which was diagnosed before I went vegan, and it hasn't gotten any worse. So while I was eating all the stuff, I had osteoporosis. I developed it. So, but it doesn't cause me doesn't cause me any concern, actually. Now I don't have to go on a bike ride. I can just say no.
Yeah.
Not interested. But so I can't say that there's anything particularly that's changed for me. I just feel better about how I show up in the world. I do feel better about that. I feel like I'm not ingesting dead animals. I feel like that is a continual, like that doesn't get old for me. That doesn't get like that. I notice it all the time that I'm surrounded by people eating dead animals, and I feel like great about it that I don't. And as a woman getting older, I'm 63. I don't feel like I'm doing too badly compared to a lot of people. So I feel like things like inflammation and arthritis haven't been a problem for me yet, but I don't think it's a panacea. And I also do eat very much of a whole food, plant-based, not just vegan, but a very kind of healthy. I always say it in quotes because who knows what's healthy.
Yes.
I try to eat very whole foods in general.
Okay. That's interesting you said about the osteoporosis, because I just had a flashback when you said that to when I was a kid and my mum would make my sister drink cow milk on a daily basis to prevent as the perceived wisdom was at the time, to prevent bone problems in later life. You must drink your milk to get your calcium to keep your bones healthy. And yet, if you think about it, if drinking cow milk stopped that, it wouldn't exist, because most people drink cow milk, don't they? So
absolutely. No, my mom was the same. No, I'm sorry. She was a nurse and she thought milk was the perfect food. She thought it was absolutely the perfect food. And it used to give me awful stomach. I mean, I'd have to have it like before school, and it would be on an empty stomach, cow's milk going to school. I was miserable. And I remember when the pediatrician, I was like 11, finally said, she might be intolerant to the lactose. My mom was just like, nonsense. That is nonsense. So it didn't seem to bother her, but.
Yeah, it kind of reminds, it's the sort of trick that the dairy industry has pulled on us, really. And it reminds me of that film Thank You for Smoking, where the guy is supporting the tobacco industry. And I kind of feel like in 20 or 30 years they'll make that same film about the dairy industry. Thank you for supporting this horrendous thing that actually doesn't do you any good at all, even though we've been telling you it does for years and years and years.
Yeah. And I think Northern Europeans can handle it in general, like numbers wise, better than most of the rest of the world, because I think we perhaps evolved to be able to handle that because we didn't grow tons of vegetables all winter long. And so maybe it worked at some point for us. But no, it's I think it's and certainly I ended up with very brittle bones in spite of all of it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so this is the key bingo question. Where do you get your protein and other nutrients?
Yeah, well, I think I kind of said it before. I almost all my meals are a grain, a bean, and then whatever else I've got on hand. I eat lots of seeds and nuts. I eat a lot of raw nuts. I love dates. And I will say, people, it's a vegan meme that I replaced 4 or 5 animal products with hundreds of other foods, but it's for sure true. I eat a much wider variety of foods every single day than I ever did. And I was not a bad eater before, but I mean, I just eat so many things now. So that's
a
where.
great point. Yes.
Yeah. So, what's the best thing about being vegan?
Again, I think the best thing about being vegan for me is knowing that I'm voting with my actions, my choices, my money, my energy for things that aren't part of an industrial animal agricultural system. So that's one. And the second thing is the freedom that it's given me to behave the way I want to behave, to not think, oh, I have to do certain things because it's normal. It kind of gave me I'm a very conventional person in many, many ways. And it gave me a chance to just be like, no, I'm not doing it that way anymore. It was kind of liberating.
Yeah, I think I felt like that yesterday. We had a Christmas party at work, and it was one because I get a lot of grief off of. I have two jobs, and I get a lot of grief from both parties. But in this one, we were a smaller group, and I was getting a lot of grief yesterday for eating the vegan pie that we had, and I was just sat there going, I'll take it all, but I'm quite happy with what I'm doing. You're sat there with your beef pie, and I'm sat here with my vegan pie, and it's all good. If you want to do that if you want to do it to yourself, crack on. But that's not what I'm doing, and I couldn't have done that 6 years ago. I just couldn't have done it. I'd have been in the right mess. But
yeah, I think that's true. And I do think men and women have, from a very, stereotypical standpoint, have different experiences with making those different choices. And I do think I have a male family member who just thinks it's the stupidest thing in the world. He's like, oh, good for you. Good for you. But real men can't do that, right? Real men, athletes can't do that. And if they say they are, it's baloney. And if they're on a team sport and they said they weren't eating beef and things, the rest of the people on the team would have them kicked off because it's a team. It's not just about one guy. So I mean, so I don't care about that, but I think other men might feel a little more like I need to counter that or argue with it or.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a conversation a few weeks ago about because I'm an NFL fan, and I was saying in Game Changers, there's a thing about the film Game Changers. There's a thing about the Tennessee Titans. A lot of the players in that team, they've gone vegan and they eat. One of their wives puts on all their food for them and whatnot. And I was saying this at work, and this guy went, "Well, how do they stay bulked up?" And I just went, "What does that tell you about what they're doing?" It's exactly the same, probably better for them. Yeah,
there's a bit of a scandal that I've only become aware of in the last day or so, involving a guy on Instagram. I know I'm sure he's on YouTube and all that sort of thing, called the Liver King. I'm not sure if you've heard of him, and he kind of promotes this diet where you basically live on liver, and there's videos, absolutely disgusting videos of him eating what looks like raw liver of an animal, obviously not human. And and he's saying that this is the way to get all big and bulky and all that. And then it turns out he's been using steroid injections to boost his physique. So it's like his whole thing is just completely blown out the water. You can't pretend that eating raw meat is the only way that is going to make you, a manly man and, all muscular and all that. It's absolute nonsense.
And reminder once again to take everything on the internet with a pinch of salt, right? All of it, and just not offload your choices to what someone else says.
Exactly. There's that famous Abraham Lincoln quote, isn't there? Not everything you read on the internet is true.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he said. Yeah.
Okay. So what's your favorite vegan product at the moment? Obviously not hiking shoes.
Yeah, not yet. Though I did find this year Reef is not a vegan company, but Reef makes a vegan sandal that's very comfortable, and surprised me that it doesn't, like, a lot of plastic things are just not that comfortable on your feet, basically, especially sandals. But Reef makes a very good one. Vessi, Vessi, is a new company, and it does supposedly vegan. And I think everything they make is vegan. And I got a pair of their Chelsea boots, kind of little booties, and they're very comfortable, and they're supposedly I mean, I haven't put them through all my paces yet, but so those have been good. And for food, is it the Gardein? It's the Gardein fish fish, they're like little fried fish pieces. And for some reason, when I'm feeling like that's like a comfort food for me, is to have a little in the air fryer fried Gardein fish replacement, whatever it's called, and it's really good.
Oh,
really good.
What company makes that then? How's
Gardein.
that?
I think it's called Gardein. You guys have so many more like prepared foods in the freezer section than I think than we do.
Wow.
I haven't. Have you tried, like, I've seen there's faux shrimp and faux salmon, which I haven't really seen in our freezers here.
Yes, we've had the faux salmon a couple of times, the
Yeah, we had
Vivera
that.
salmon, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Really?
It's really good. I have no idea how they've done it. If I did, I'd do it myself. But it's
Or wouldn't.
yeah. But it's it's really good. And it's even the texture is the same, because a lot of stuff that you have, the taste is similar and it looks similar, but the texture isn't quite right. But that somehow is just right, that salmon.
Yeah, I applaud some of these. They're not I don't build my meals around them, because I still think there's a lot of sodium and a lot of stuff, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But they make me feel like I'm having a taste that feels like home once in a while.
Yes, I get that. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. So, what advice would you give to anyone who's thinking of going vegan?
Yeah, I would say practice making a choice when it's easy. Notice when you can do it easily, and then notice when it seems impossible. And then just go, that choice seems impossible, but this other choice seems easy, so I could make that one. And just keep practicing making the distinction. I had my 3 kids got married kind of back to back very shortly. I never had vegan wedding cake. I didn't have the cake. It didn't strike me as a big deal. For somebody else, that would be the worst thing.
Yeah.
It would just be too emotional, too horrible to do without. For me, it was nothing. It didn't matter at all. But it was because I had practiced that for a while before I committed to being vegan. I kept looking for the easy things that I knew I could do, and then kind of just what's the word? Just kind of investigating, why would this be so hard for me? Because it's not usually about the food. It's usually about what we associate that food with. We associate it with the friends, the people, the event, the history of it, the tradition of it. Those are the things that make going vegan for some people harder than other things. So I would just say, do the easy things you're already eating, unless you're not, but most people are already eating some vegan things all the time. Just keep adding those and crowding out the other stuff until you start to have a little sense that, oh, it might be possible.
Yeah, that's really
One of
good.
the things that I really like on your podcast that I've heard a couple of times is I'm probably going to get this in the wrong order now, but keep, stop, start. And I like the way of breaking things down to literally keep doing one thing, stop doing something else, and then start doing the next thing. And I've I've started using that in my own life to the extent that I used it in a presentation to my manager a while ago, and he really loved it. So I was like, "Yes, thanks, Michelle." That's
Oh,
great.
I'm so pleased. It works in so many. I mean, how you go vegan is how you do everything, where you're challenging yourself to learn something new. It's like so many women my age are challenging themselves with all kinds of things, like maybe running a 10K or a marathon, or they're challenging themselves to do all kinds of things. This is the same. It's really the same. I think it matters more for others, for the rest of the world, but it's really the same kind of thing. You don't go couch to marathon, you go couch maybe to 5K walking it. You go, same thing. Some people are able to go overnight completely plant-based, completely vegan. Most people have to take it in some sorts of stages. I feel like they tend to burn out when most of the people that come to me and want to restart, it's because they did it all at once and they really white knuckled it and they tried to make it really to be perfect right away. And it's just, we're never perfect. We're still functioning in a world. We're touching things. We're building things. We're driving cars or in trains. Things are getting hurt all the time. We need to really try to see what we can do sustainably.
Very good.
That's excellent. Yes. Okay. So who is your vegan inspiration?
That changes almost every day because I talk to a lot of people and I hear their stories, and some people it's much more challenging to move towards a vegan lifestyle than others. And some people have all kinds of speed bumps in the way. I always find people who have celiac disease who can't have gluten. And also I find that I think about that and it strikes me as really hard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I had to like bring those, yeah. So, and other people have, so anyway, whoever I see making a real effort, some people don't have much, they live in a very rural area. They don't have expendable income for these sorts of things. So I'm continually excited by people keep trying. Some people fail and then come back to it. And those people I think are heroes. I really, because so many people just want to hide when they've failed at something and just go, forget it, that wasn't for me. And I think it takes so much more bravery and compassion to say, yeah, I'm going to keep trying.
Yeah, that's it. I had a go, didn't work, but I still want to make it. I still want to get there in the end. That takes some guts, that, because every meat eater will tell you about their friend or relative or neighbor who went vegan for a month and nearly died. So it's good to get people who really want to make a go of it.
You're so right. You're so right, because and it's like the newspaper is full of all the ex-vegans, and when Miley Cyrus quits or something, Miley Cyrus will be back. I'm sure she'll be back. Liam Hemsworth, whoever it was, I don't. They'll be back. They'll be back, but they won't get as much press probably as when they quit.
No,
yeah,
definitely not. No, everyone wants to know about when someone's not vegan anymore, but
yeah,
when somebody is vegan, it's like,
you see, they couldn't do it. They can do. They have to stop. Whatever.
And I hear people say that all the time. Yeah, if Miley Cyrus can't do it, she can probably afford to have, people cooking for her and shopping for her. How am I supposed to do it? Taking my kids to school and then feeding them on, and impossible for me if she can't do it. But it's just irrelevant. We each do what we can, every choice.
100%.
That's it.
So have you got a favorite vegan venue or restaurant for the minute?
One of my favorites closed. I think a lot of places have closed because of COVID.
Yeah.
I don't think it's because it was vegan, though. People always love to say that it's because it was vegan and nobody cared. There was a place I loved in Delray called The New Vegan. A lovely family, and really, I'm sad that it's gone. I think they're trying to do other things, and maybe it will be reinvented somewhere. So that was one. In New York City, if you go, are you likely to be in New York City anytime?
Hopefully, my
Um,
wife will say she'll definitely want to be there at some point.
Yeah. Well, I hope if she will have her call, But there's a great Korean vegan restaurant called Hangawi, Hangawi. Really yum. Everything in that. I don't even know because I don't know Korean food to begin with. But the food there is delicious. And they have, I believe it's a sister property called Francia, Francia, near Grand Central Station that I had just recently in New York and was delicious. I would definitely go back. But mostly I end up trying to order vegan at non-vegan restaurants. And there's a lot of great choices. We just have to keep working with them, insisting.
yes. So that's interesting. So I've been into the US twice since I've been vegan. And the first time was San Francisco, and the second time was New York. And I found that either the restaurants were a vegan restaurant or a traditional restaurant with no vegan options. It was either one or the other. There was no, like over here in the UK, pretty much anywhere you go, you'll get a restaurant option, and there will be at least a vegan option. But over there were a lot of vegan restaurants, but because we had the kids with us the first time and I was with two carnist work colleagues the second time, there wasn't one place. We found it difficult to go to one place where we could all eat. Is that your experience around where you are still, or is it sort of progressing a bit?
I feel like it's progressing a lot. I tend to, I guess I probably just avoid the places that are not very receptive at this point. But But I agree. You know, the problem for me with some vegan restaurants that are all vegan is around me, a lot of them are very like smoothie oriented or kind of like a little bit junk foody, which is delicious and darling, but it's not how I usually eat. So that's one of the problems I used to have with Happy Cow, because so many of the options on Happy Cow app were like not really places to have a full meal type of thing. So, but I think it's all getting better. I think the vegan places are getting better, more nutritious. I think there was a lot of pressure on them to have fun food and donuts and vegan donuts. I don't know. I think it's nice that they exist. I just don't know if we need to put so much behind them.
Oh, I don't know. I could live off the donut.
We're quite new to vegan donuts over here. We haven't had much of an option recently, so it's nice to. We're just going through the early stages of.
You're enjoying that.
Experiencing them. Yeah. But maybe in a year or so we'll be like, no more donuts.
Enough of that.
So in New York, there was a Chinese. I think it was a takeaway. It might have been a restaurant. But it was called Spicy Moon, I think, and it was like down the bottom end of Manhattan, and that was absolutely tremendous. Probably the best Chinese food I've ever had.
Was it all vegan, or was it?
Yes, it's entirely vegan Chinese.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, it was really good.
I'm writing that down.
I want to say it was really low. It was like 8th Street or 11th Street or something like that, like right down the bottom. So it was really, really good.
That's good to know. I just wrote that one down.
Okay. It may have been takeaway because it was COVID time. I can't remember. So it was early 2021 that I went. So most places were closed.
Yeah.
And that was a weird time actually, going through New York when there was nobody there.
Yeah, or they're all eating outdoors in their parka. Everybody was wearing a parka and sitting outside.
March, it was like -6 and everyone's standing outside eating.
Yeah. Well,
-6 Celsius, not Fahrenheit. That would have been very different, I think. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. You go off Fahrenheit there, don't you?
Yes. Yeah. When I was like 1968, I remember them telling me, learn your metric. In a couple years, we'll all be metric.
No way.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
It's been a lot.
Just around the corner.
So Americans, all we know are the 2-liter Coca-Cola bottles. We know exactly how much 2 liters is based on a Coca-Cola bottle.
And that's it.
That's about it.
That's amazing.
Something that it's sort of evolved as we've gone on talking to our different guests about the way of the world at the moment. Do you have any hope for the future?
Yes. Yeah, I do have hope for the future. I think, as I said it earlier, you know, my family came out of the Second World War, and there have always been dark times. There, I'm a student of history. There've always been very dark times. I don't know if it always progressively gets linearly better, but I do believe that human beings always want to reorient and learn. And we're messy beings, but I do have hope for the future. I really do.
Oh, I like that.
I
Yes.
know I'm a Pollyanna, but I'd rather be wrong about that than right about no hope.
Oh, I like that.
I like that.
Yes, that's a good way of looking at it. I'd rather be wrong about having hope. Yeah. Okay. That's a great way
It's
of
really
looking at it.
true. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. That's fantastic. Now, before you go, I've got to ask you about your setup there, because your microphone sounds way better than our headphones sound. So
Gonna say that.
what's the and you haven't got headphones on. So what's the setup?
I just have an ATR something, ATR, I don't remember the number. It's a very classic Audio Technica, fairly cheap. The hiccup, well, the best thing is to have it this one right up next to me. I had a Blue Yeti for a while, which is fine, but I think this one sounds a little bit better, and having an arm that has this thing right up in my face,
Yes.
I think is better. But I'm glad if it sounds good.
Yeah, it's very
better than
professional.
us.
I can move it out of the way, but well, maybe not. Maybe I can't.
Awesome.
I think you guys sound great. And you know what? The thing is it's the information, and it's the personality, and it's the conversation, I think is what's important. And this medium, what I love about podcasting is it's not free. It's definitely not free, but it's darn close as media goes, and people love it. Not all people, but I think people love it, and I think it is really just a really great way for lots of different discussions and ideas to percolate and to spread. And for me, it's just been a beautiful, beautiful community to be involved in, and there are never enough vegan podcasts out there.
That's very true. And we got our, well, I haven't shared this with Wes actually though, but we got our Spotify Wrapped yesterday. Did you get that yesterday or today? The Spotify, you know, they send you like the all your listening figures for the year and all that sort of thing. So it was really nice to see that, like in some fancy graphics, you know, like, I mean, the numbers aren't massive, but it's still nice that there's people who follow and people who listen, and, you know, people around the world who listen to us, and you're like, maybe this, you know, and because people listen again and again and engage through the Instagram or Facebook pages and stuff, you really feel like, actually, do you know what? Maybe we are doing a little bit of good just by making it feel like a community, and people listening to our conversation and maybe just recognize something within themselves and think, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm in there.
I totally agree. And you know, the numbers, they stay out there. I still listen to some there was a woman who had a podcast. She had a baby, and so she basically retired the podcast. I still listen to her back not, was it Live Planted? Alyssa from Live Planted. I love her podcasts, and they exist forever unless she pulls them down. They're out there, and they probably exist forever even if she tries to pull them down.
Yeah,
because they
go with YouTube, isn't it? YouTube videos will always be there, even if you stop posting it, they'll still be there and they still could get views. So, yeah.
Yes. So the good work continues.
That's it.
And you're still newbies, right? You guys are still pretty new.
Despite our faces, we're young at this game.
Well, I know what that's like. I totally know what that's like. I started podcasting age 60, and I was like, what am I doing? That's why I have Charlie, because I was like, if you have to wait for me to learn how to do all the editing, this is not going to happen.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's how did you find Charlie then? Was he like someone you knew already, or he's
He
like a
wasn't.
professional? Or what?
I went to a women's college called Smith College. It's one of the historic women's colleges in the U.S. And we have a very very nice networking. It's not a huge school, but we have a good networking program. And I posted when I started. I said, anybody, because I was basically going to hire a woman, I thought, anybody know a podcast editor? I'm starting this. And I got immediately from a woman I didn't know, but was a Smith College grad, my son.
Oh, wow. You
Awesome.
can't turn
And
that
he's-
down.
No, and he's a filmmaker. He's very accomplished in many ways, more from an artistic point of view, and but he also knows exactly how to do with this. And he had a podcast that he was working on with people. So that's how I found him.
Brilliant. Okay, so you just send him the recording and off you go.
I just put it in Dropbox, and then he sends it. And I make some notes about where I'm worried about something, and then he puts it together and puts and he did the music for it too, the sound
Brilliant.
signature and the music, and he's great. Charlie Weinshank. If anybody needs
Yeah.
an editor,
Massive shout out to Charlie.
Yeah, go Charlie. Excellent. Okay. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Michele.
Thanks for
It's
listening,
been,
guys.
It's been
Yeah,
tremendous.
thank you.
And I really enjoy your podcast. I've learned a lot from it. So
That's very kind of you to
keep
say. Please
keep up with that.
Thank you. Please let me be cheer you on and be a resource for you guys too as you go through.
Thank you ever so
We
much.
will do that.
Don't
Thank you.
hesitate.
That's
Thank
brilliant.
you, Wes. Thank you.
Cheers,
And
Michele.
Matthew.
Thanks for your time.
Bye. Bye. Oh, well, that was a good podcast, wasn't it?
That was a good one. I really enjoyed that. And I know I say that every time, but I genuinely do. I really do enjoy talking to other people
Absolutely.
about their
I
vegan
love it.
journeys.
I absolutely love it. Yeah. It's really interesting. Just listen to whatever. I know we've said it time and time again, that everyone comes back with different stuff. And
Yep.
Michele was lovely.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
Very informative.
Yes. Clearly knows her stuff.
Yeah.
And some of the ways that she was like looks at things is really different to how I've been doing stuff so far. Like,
Yeah. What she said about hope was really interesting as well.
yeah, I'm going to try and apply that from now on, because it does get to me, the thought of how the world seems to be going. So having that more positive outlook without being ridiculously over the top positive, I think you need to be a bit measured in it, but
Yeah.
trying to look on the more positive side is perhaps the way forwards.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned it about the conversation I had with a group of people last night, and I was quite chuffed because they were all very engaging and listening to me, which felt really weird. But one of the people said, she said, you're never going to change the whole world, and I said, it's not about changing the whole world. You can do what you're doing on an individual level, and that's all that matters. I'm doing what I'm doing on an individual level, and I'm winning at that. And if I can have a conversation with you lot, and there was probably 7 of them there, I said, out of all of you lot now, if I can sow a seed, I'm not going to sit here and go, you've got to make a difference or make a change. But if I sow a seed and you go home tonight thinking about it, then I've done my job. I'm not going to pressure you. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm just going to say, if you're asking me the questions, I'm giving you the answers. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
And we got a follow on the podcast out of it. So
Hey.
there's a win.
Yes. It's always a win when that stuff happens, because then, they're, even if they're not listening fully, then they're perhaps seeing the posts that might lead them into something else, and you just never know.
Exactly.
Just never know.
So yeah,
fantastic.
Happy days. Thank you all for listening again.
Yeah,
I think you're all mad, but well done.
You've enjoyed it, found something useful, and like we said at the beginning, if you want to come on, tell us your story, have a chat, we'll be happy to speak to you.
More than happy to speak to you. Or
More than
listen to you. Or listen to you better. Send us an email at howiveganpodcast@gmail.com or have a look at our socials. and all
Exactly.
that
That's
stuff.
what the kids say, isn't it?
That is
Find
what
us
the
on the
kids say.
socials. What's your socials?
What's your
How I
socials?
Vegan Podcast.
There you go. Job done. See you all next time.
See ya.